In this video, we do an entire rebrand for free using a free editing tool that anyone can download and use. Create your own Twitch themes to use with OBS easily. If you, like me, have streamed for a while with basic downloaded packs, but you now want something a little more custom, a little more your own, then this is the video for you. I start off with an idea. I saw someone streaming on Twitch with a hexagon shaped cam and I loved it. It was different, it was vibrant, just gave a little bit more edge to that stream, and I found myself looking at the camera more. So I already know webcams in OBS can be shaped. You use a black PNG, and in OBS there is a setting, filter setting in your cameras to set it as a image mask or blend, and it will shape your camera if you set it to mask by alpha to the shape of that black PNG. So I tried a bunch of different shapes, but inevitably ended up settling on the hex, and there are a number of reasons for this. The main one really being that any shape that didn't cover as much area meant that I was cutting out a lot of what was behind me. And you know, I like my little Christmas tree over here and my bookshelf. I've got some things that I want to show. We then looked into colours. I already had a decent idea as to the colour for this brand. I was going with a primary and secondary colour, a dark blue and a white. I talk in hex codes because I'm colorblind, so it was a blue of 000040 and white, which is all the Fs. So first things first, set up that hex. We built our little black PNG, and everything else was going to be built around this. So this is a very important step. Now, I use Photoshop because I happen to have it, but there are plenty of free tools out there you can use. I tested this in OBS to make sure it would work with my background. We then imported that into Hitfilm Express. Now, this is where the free nature of this video comes in. Hitfilm Express is my video editor of choice. I am not sponsored, so I can tell you without any particular prejudice that this is the best video editor for free out there. It has a pro version, which is grand, but the free version is similar in many ways, if not most ways. The pro version, all you're getting is a bunch of extra packs and a couple of little extra features here and there. But the free version is just the pro version without some of that extra stuff. So this gets you as close to Premiere Pro as possible without actually forking out handfuls and handfuls of money, which, as a new or smaller streamer, you do not have. So in Hitfilm, we set up the basic camera overlay. For this, we take our extra hexes that we created as we were making the first hex, the sort of outline in blue and in white, and place them both in Hitfilm Express. Now, to incorporate both of these colours, I didn't quite know how I wanted to do it, so I just put it in there and started playing around with things, moving things around. I was looking at a bunch of different effects that I could use, but eventually settled on just nudging the white under the blue, so I had this sort of offset effect, and that comes into play after. Because the next thing we wanted to do was animation. I wanted some animation in this webcam. People have a short attention span. See? People have short attention span. You need to keep their attention by changing things. A subtle move from the white border under the blue but above the camera was in order here. That would be enough to maybe keep people's attention, but not so much that it would distract them from the content, because that is what you should really be highlighting here. So I moved it on 4 different axes. It started in the top left, moved to top right, then down at the bottom right, across the bottom left, and back up again. This move itself, it was a little too simple for me. I wanted a distorted move. I wanted it to have a bit more life and fluidity to it. So we played with the curves. Now, changing curves in the keyframes of Hitfilm Express, Premiere Pro, any of these softwares is a refined art, but you will not learn and understand it unless you really do try and get stuck in. So I recommend maybe make a copy of your layer, change it to curves, and go in and just play, mess around, see what you can do. You can always revert back and use smooth frames or something thereafter. Once you're happy with it, copy and paste your keyframes a couple of times. As far as I'm aware, Hitfilm Express doesn't have a looping function, so just copy and paste these frames a couple of times across your timeline to see how it would work in a loop. Now in a loop it was a little too distracting. I wanted a gap, so I moved those frames away, created a end frame by clicking the little toggle that says create in-out area, and I exported that in-out area with the movement in the first half and then a break of about the same length, if not longer. I exported that as alpha with, MOV with alpha. Alpha with MOV. An MOV file with alpha, which we can convert into a WebM later. My converter tool of choice, by the way, is in the description below if you would like that. So, we have our hex for our webcam shape, and we have our border, which animates slightly to keep things interesting. Alerts. Now, alerts are sort of a key part of building a Twitch brand. Most follower alerts are big and blaring and take away from the content. I wanted something impactful, but just around the webcam, something that wouldn't distract. As a smaller streamer, you want this. You want to be able to encourage people to follow and subscribe, so you want it to be impactful, but you want to see if you can maintain your sort of space for your content, or at least I do. So I started with 3 extra colours of our border. One for follow, one for sub, and one for bits. Now, you should probably save these numbers. I do, again, colorblind, so I save everything as a hex and put it in a text file, so I'll never forget. I started playing around with a new animation for this. I had I would mask out a small little bead of this colour and have it dart around the frame. But that wasn't particularly great. It was actually my fiance who suggested a loading bar type fill, where the little beads start off in one place and then would slowly encase the entire frame. Much more impactful, but still not taking away from the content. All we're doing is changing what's already there. So, how to build this? We built a mask around our follow border, and then animated it by adding path keyframes and moving the mask around the frame, spaced at once every 1/3 of a second to make the entire thing flow nicely but not take up too much time. Bearing in mind most follower alerts and such stick to about 10 seconds total, and many of those seconds you want the animation to have been finished and on screen. So this sorted the impact, but now we needed the follower name as well as the type of alert to display. I like diagonal lines, really. So it made sense to place these along the bottom right hand corner, where they could interact with the diagonal line of my hexagon, and I could create a nice little block that came off of it. Blocks of colour are good too. They're simple and effective, but I tend to offset it with a little something, just a small little extra line, a small border, or like a little logo in a corner. You want to break it up a little bit while still having the block, because it's simple, effective, impactful. To animate this, we can go super simple. It's really, really easy to do a sort of swipe transition. You just draw a big mask off to the side, keyframe the position of it, and when you want it to animate, move across to where you want it to be fully in frame, keyframe that, and drag the position of the mask across. The mask itself basically says anything in here, reveal it. So as you drag it across, it will reveal that box. Really, really simple thing to do. Now, repeat the same for the smaller line, which makes up the title of the alert. New follower, new subscriber, cheered so many bits, etc. This took a little bit of time to size correctly, but it was worth doing. I'll repeat this for your other colors and alerts, export them all again as MOV with alpha, and convert them to WebM files. Now we're on to Stream Elements. You can do this sort of stuff in Streamlabs directly, but Stream Elements allow for much more customization. You can also find loads of widgets out there, which you can use already. One we do use, that you can see me editing here, is the Alpha Gaming Rotating Feed. Instead of a huge chunky bar showing your latest follower, subscriber, top donator, top subscriber gifts, all of these many things, this will just take up one space and rotate those things around with a nice little graphic as well. It's really customizable, you can do as many things as you want with it. Join their Discord down below in the description to download this widget. I recommend it. And while you're at it, join our Discord too. We have Pokemon game channels and mildly entertaining people. And you can ask me a bunch of questions about Twitch, editing, or the many games that we play. The main bulk of the work in Streamlabs itself will be done on those alerts we made. After turning them into WebMs, import them as alerts in Stream Elements. Make sure you set the size of it to the same size you export to your project. We tend to do most of our stuff in 1080p, just to keep things simple, but 720p would work out just fine for these cameras. Make sure you've set the text to appear over the image rather than next to or beneath, as that will screw with your sizing. Change the font from the default, because default fonts are terrible, they're normal. I say that, but I kind of still like Bebas. I know I'm stuck in 2019, but forgive me. Use your line spacing to correctly space any multi-line stuff, like we do with the bit cheering later on. And then make use of text delays. Our animation needs some time to come in and out at the end of it. So the full 10 seconds that the text normally appears on in Stream Elements was too long. So I had to spend a bunch of time playing around with how late to delay it, and then how early to kick it off, leaving as well. You can also animate your text completely differently. I was really hoping I would find one that would slide in nicely with the rest of our, those banners that slide in too. But none of the animations really matched our own, so I went with a simple fade, because that's kind of the default, the vanilla. If your alert has validation settings, like subs or bits for example, where people can gift lots of subs and you can have a different alert for that, either implement these, so you could make it more grand, you could have different sounds play, or if you want to keep things simple, if you're not expecting people to donate massive amounts of bits, then just turn those off. Because if you don't, it will use Stream Element default ones, which you do not want. Finally, we bring it all into OBS. To do this, make a new browser source element, copy the Stream Elements URL into the URL space here, make the height and width the same as your Stream Elements overlay. For the Alpha Gaming rotating feed, that was 1200 by 100, and for our own bits, that is 1920 by 1080. Finally, throw your webcam in and position and scale it correctly. If you don't already have it set up, make sure to create that black image mask and apply it in the filters. Again, remembering to set it to the alpha mask so that it looks for any black spaces and fills that in with your camera. Again, any shape works, but it will just detract from your regular camera size. So you're always going to be looking at smaller pictures. So just remember that when deciding what shape to go with. Position any of your extra elements. For me, that is the rotating feed and its background. Then finally, hop into Stream Elements and run some tests. For the rest of the rebranding, screens and such like that, for our channel I decided to have a sort of faded overlay, which I did quite simply by creating a plane and making it slightly opaque, and then putting some game art behind that, slowly moving, because remember, movement keeps attention. People do not like to pay attention to things for very long. Add some text for stream starting, be right back, and enjoy the raid. I always raid after a stream, rather than just end it. Remember folks, pass it on. So, for the moving background, I took some game art that specifically finds stuff you're allowed to use, and take it into Hitfilm. Here, you scale it up, so that if you move it around there won't be blank areas appearing. This is a mistake I ran into myself. We all learn somehow. Keyframe the position at the very beginning, then move yourself ahead in the timeline as you move the image elsewhere. Now, play with the speeds of this. You can even change the curves of each move, but here I actually wanted simplicity. I wanted a smooth moving background. So I just dragged across all the keyframes here and changed them to smooth, which will sort of smooth out those curves. When you are happy, export this as a regular final video file, and then import these into OBS. In my case, I have a bunch of these depending on what game I want to play, but you can go as simple or as complicated as you like. As is key with branding, make sure you give this your own style. Give it some of your personality, what makes you a fun streamer to watch. I hope this quick rebrand has really given you that difference maker to bring your channel to that next level, for free. If you need any further assistance, be sure to hit me up on Twitter or in Discord, the links can be found below. Do like the video and subscribe, and if you think there is someone that there is some sort of interesting fake remake or rebrand I could do of their channel, give me a comment of that below. I think I'm going to do a couple myself. Ciao.